Leah. Welcome to our wellness group for December. You guys are in for such a treat today. Today we have our Diabetes Care Program Manager, Anna Simos, presenting, as well as Megan Sosnick, who is a cooking enthusiast, has experience making delicious food with healthy options. She was getting her Master's of Science, and she would actually cook for her classmates. So lots of experience there, learning to make foods tasty and accommodate all the different health conditions. And so as a result, Megan has her Master's in Business from Babson, and she also is doing some healthy holiday cooking for us today. So without further ado, we'll pass it over.
Thanks, Leah.
Thank you.
Yeah, welcome. We are here today in Megan's kitchen, and we are going to have quite a meal. You guys will be getting all these recipes sent to you if you've registered for this webinar. And we've made Megan's helped us choose a really wonderful holiday meal to prepare. Let's start. Megan's gonna take on the salad and the main course, and I'll follow up with the desserts. Come on, Megan, here we go.
Okay, so to start, we're gonna start with the roasted apple salad with spicy maple apple cider vinaigrette. And this is what your recipe will look like once you get it by email. And the key to this recipe is the apple cider vinaigrette that you're going to make. It has some sriracha and a little bit of maple syrup, but the apple cider is something that's so good for your stomach and your digestion. And to begin, we're going to preheat the oven to 375 and line a baking sheet, because we're going to quarter the apples like I've already done here. And then we're going to drizzle them with olive oil and let them bake along with some pecans so that we can top the salad with them. So I have a little bit of olive oil here already. We're going to spin them around, and then we'll pop them in the oven while we start to make the salad dressing and get the rest of this together, and then move on to the main dish and try to be as efficient as possible for our holiday meal. So next, in order to make the dressing, we're going to do 2 tablespoons of apple cider vinegar, 2 tablespoons of olive oil, 1 tablespoon maple syrup, 1 teaspoon of sriracha chili sauce, some salt and pepper. And we can do the rest to taste if you'd like. So you just need a little bowl like this, and we'll get started. So here is the apple cider vinegar that I like, but there's all sorts of them, different brands.
And this is a really low fat, and the fat that's in it's very monosaturated fat salad dressing. So it's a really nice salad dressing. It's very tasty, has a little spicy kick to it, but it's also healthy. And part of the problem with a lot of these dressings, especially holiday dressings, is the fat content and the sodium content. And this one is low in both.
Olive oil. Next we have maple syrup, and there's other maple syrups that are sugar-free and they are really good. You can find them at Safeway, but this is just a regular Vermont maple syrup.
And the amount of syrup that's in this recipe proportionally is really a small amount, so it's not going to really affect your blood glucoses. So there's also other things in this recipe that like the apples, the dates, and the pecans that all have high fiber too. So there's a lot of healthful aspects to this salad.
And here is sriracha. A lot of people use it to top anything. When I made this salad before, I used a lot more than the recipe called for because I wanted more of a kick. But today we'll make it as the recipe says with just 1 teaspoon.
This really is a wonderful dressing.
And then we just need to add a little bit of salt and pepper. And it says half a teaspoon salt, a quarter pepper, and you can just eyeball that for this dressing. So I'm just going really slow.
Easy.
Here, pepper.
And for people who are on an incredibly low sodium diet, you once again can always change the amount of sodium that you might want to use in the dressing and in any recipe.
So we'll mix it together. So now this is going to be ready, and the apples are going to be cooking for about 20 minutes. So we just have to watch our time, but we also have some lettuce, and you can use any lettuce of your choice that it's already washed and chopped up. And we have some dates to top to make it like a nice sweet crouton alternative. And the dates have really great fiber, so there's a lot of nutritional content to this salad. And so while we're waiting on our apples, we can move on to the main course, which is the horseradish-encrusted beef tenderloin. And while we were looking at this recipe, we wanted to think about some other alternatives that were healthy alternatives and more cost effective. And Anna is going to talk to you about that.
So beef tenderloin is often one of the most expensive parts of the beef. And although this is a wonderful recipe, it also can be a little bit more costly. So we are looking at, we've spoken to some various chefs we know, butchers, and they suggested that other aspects that would work instead of a beef tenderloin would be a shoulder roast or even pork tenderloin. And then even you could use this as a topping on a steak. So these are some of the things that we found, and I think that it's good to have options.
And so to begin this recipe, you're going to turn the oven up to 425 degrees, and you're going to peel a whole bulb of garlic and try to get the paper off as much as possible. It's really difficult. I started and did it here already. And it doesn't have to be perfect because you're going to put some olive oil on it and then bake it just to get the flavor out. And so we'll do that in a second. But another alternative that you can do, if it's easier for you, you can just use some minced garlic that's already at the store and throw it into the recipe and do it to taste.
Yeah, that's and that might be much more time friendly because peeling garlic can be a chore.
And it gets a little hot, and if you're in a rush, it's not fun. But you'll just throw some olive oil in here, wrap up some heavy duty foil, and throw it in the oven. And then we have our topping. I've already made the topping here, but I will show you the ingredients, but you can see the texture. It kind of balls up, and it has all the herbs, horseradish and garlic and breadcrumbs. And so here, once again, we have some garlic, minced garlic. You use dried thyme, dried basil leaves, and then it specifically calls for prepared horseradish. And when I was in the store, some people were saying like, oh, horseradish can be really expensive, but Safeway had this brand called Reese, and it was only a couple dollars, so it was a really great find. And lastly, you can use a little bit of salt and pepper if you want, or garlic salt even. And so we've already pre-cooked this for you today so that you can see it, so it wasn't so time consuming. And we did a smaller piece, but this is what your roast will look like. And we've already cooked it on a couple occasions and had a lot of great feedback on it.
Yeah, and it's a wonderful preparation, very festive, but not too time consuming, and really nutritious. Because oftentimes a lot of these toppings can have a lot of sodium, things that maybe we might not want to have. And this actually is a nice addition, but it's not really affecting you calorically, carbohydrate-wise, and in the fat content area. So this recipe is a real win. And like mentioned before, you can use it on other items as well. So other meat products.
So while the apples are still finishing, we need about another 10 minutes.
Okay.
We can start talking about some of the desserts Anna made.
Okay, so let's talk about this. I'm bringing out the dessert options. We have a couple things. One is for our chocolate lovers. There is a cheesecake swirl brownie. And this is what it looks like when it's done. The one thing about brownies is mostly everyone loves brownies, except that the common brownie has 40 grams of carbohydrate and about 250 plus calories if you're finding a conservative brownie. Brownies can go up to 300, 400 calories per brownie. This little brownie is, how much is this one? Was it 100 and, let me see, I have it right here.
172 calories per brownie.
172 calories per brownie.
Pretty sizable,
And yeah,
too.
23 grams of carb. And if you notice, that's a pretty sizable brownie. Now this is a find. This is a great find. And it is, it also has cream cheese in it, which actually helps stump the absorption of the glucose from the carbohydrate into your system. And so one other thing about this brownie is it's lower in fat. We are using a third less cream cheese, and we also use the Land O'Lakes light butter. So you have a low fat, low carb, low sugar brownie. That tastes good. I know it sounds crazy, but it really does, okay? And you guys can always give us feedback if you don't think it tastes good or if it does taste good. We'd love to hear about it. But this, as far, we have tried it on a lot of people who are brownie aficionados, and they love this brownie. So what we did here, how we got there, is in the ingredients, it took 3 large eggs, room temperature, 6 tablespoons of reduced fat butter, it took 1 cup of sugar, which is really actually a very low amount of sugar for a brownie, because it fits this brownie pan, and it makes 12 brownies, 12 large size brownies, and a half a cup of all-purpose flour, 1/4 cup of baking powder, and then 1 package of reduced fat cream cheese. So the trick is you mix 2 ingredients. You mix the chocolate part, and then you mix the cream cheese part separately. And then can I have a spatula? Megan, please. So we prepared it ahead of time, and basically you take this chocolate mixture. Oh, the other piece of it I forgot to mention is the unsweetened cocoa that you put in here. And actually, chocolate is really good for you. And I'm sure you guys know that. It has, not only does it have a lot of good aspects in the sense of it has a lot of fiber in it, cocoa, but it also, it actually just makes people feel better. And you take this chocolate mixture and you put it in the brownie pan. One thing is you should always with either some cooking spray, grease your pan.
And sometimes you can also add a little bit of flour so it doesn't stick to the bottom too. It's always a good tip.
Yeah, that is true. The flour is really nice because you don't want your brownies to stick. And we let's get all this gunk out. Thank you. And this is so we put this in, but then the festive part about this brownie, what I really like about this brownie is you don't have to frost it because you're putting cream cheese in it and you're swirling it. So it looks so pretty. So again, we're cutting calories and sugar from avoiding the frosting on the brownie. And we have this beautiful topping that actually has protein and has, it does have fat, but like I said, the fat again stunts the absorption of the carbohydrate into the bloodstream. So it's a slower absorbing brownie. So here we go. And so then the trick on this recipe is the cream cheese piece. The cream cheese piece, you mix it together ahead of time, and then you take and blop it. I just put a couple blobs in it, and this actually swirls, and like I said, makes that beautiful little design that helps not have to frost or put sprinkles or any other things that might not be as low carb friendly. Still not affecting, I have a little extra there. And the swirling goes like this. Some people are better at this than others.
It'll turn out pretty no matter what.
Yeah, Megan's assuring me it's going to turn out pretty. The one thing is that you need to know about swirling is do not over swirl or you'll mix the whole thing. So at one point, we'll just accept that this is our version of our masterpiece. And well, I'm no Martha Stewart, but there you go. There you go.
You can also use a toothpick too.
Oh.
You don't have to use a knife.
See, now Megan tells me we can use a toothpick.
No, but a knife works better for this one. You can.
It does say knife in the recipe, but a tip from Megan is toothpick. So that's what it looks like. You pop it in the oven. You bake it for, what is it, 30 minutes, I think?
Mm-hmm, about 30 minutes.
30 minutes, and voila! You get the beautiful brownie. And I love these brownies. So that's the brownie. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna hand this over. Now let's talk about cake. Okay, for all of you out there who are trying to be gluten-free, and gluten-free doesn't always mean low carbs. Oftentimes gluten-free is a little higher in carbs, but people do feel better often gluten-free. There is this gluten-free carrot cake, and it is wonderful. It is made with, it's called sugar-free, and the reason why is we use swerve in it, which is a sugar sweetener. We even use the swerve powdered sugar to make the icing, the cream cheese frosting. And the ingredients, and so let's talk about this cake. A couple things about this cake. Okay, your average carrot cake usually is 300 calories a slice, and that's if you're lucky. That's, again, not a frilly carrot cake, and it's about 40 grams of carb. So, that really takes a chunk out of our carb expenditure per day, just for a piece of carrot cake. This carrot cake is 169 calories, and it is about 31 grams of carbohydrate. That is a lot better. And the reason it's a little higher in carbohydrate is because sometimes when you're using coconut flour or gluten-free flour, it is more carbohydrate than regular flour. So there's a fascinating fact. So this one is made with coconut flour, but you can use gluten-free flour if you can't find coconut flour. And you use 1 1/4 cup of coconut flour, 4 half teaspoons of cinnamon, 1 tablespoon of baking soda, 1 tablespoon of baking powder, 1 teaspoon of salt, a half a teaspoon of ground nutmeg. This is a half a cake. It takes 9 large eggs. I did 4 1/2 large eggs. And don't ask me how I halved that egg. It wasn't easy, but I wanted it right. I wanted to do the recipe right. And then we do 1 cup plus 2 tablespoons of the swerve sweetener, and then a half a cup plus 2 tablespoons of Greek yogurt. And that's what helps keep the moisture, along with the 4 cups of carrots and the 3/4 cups of pecans are mixed into it. And then last but not least, you take a half a cup of coconut flakes. So all that is in this cake. And you put that all together, you blend it up, and you put it in a pan, and it says to put it into one pan. So you put it into one pan, you can use a springform pan, and it will puff up in, I think it's like, what is it? I'm trying to remember what I did there. I think it was
For 35, 40 minutes.
35, yeah, it was a little more than 30 minutes at 350. Then I let the cake cool, and I let it cool. And then the next day I took and I cut it in half, and so I could have this 2-layer effect, because it's no fun to have a 1-layer cake. There's not enough frosting. We have to have a 2-layer cake. So I cut it in half, and we made frosting. Now this frosting is made with cream cheese. Again, the low-fat cream cheese. But it's 12 ounces of light cream cheese, 3/4 of a cup of plain Greek yogurt, 3 tablespoons of vanilla extract, and then 1.5 cups of the Swirl powdered sugar version. Now, you can use a different sweetener, but there's conversion charts that you can use that. My mother told me she doesn't like Swirl, and that was good input. But I find that the texture of Swirl is really good, and it makes a nice frosting. So this is what we have, and we made this, and it turned out really nicely, and it does taste good. And I think you know, I would make both, actually. If I was doing a holiday meal, I would do the brownies and the carrot cake, because they're both low carb, low fat, healthy, and higher in protein than most of these types of items you find. So I think that that's really important to think about. So there, how are apples?
Our apples are ready to go. We put them off so they could cool down. And to get them to get ready for the salad, I'm going to slice them a little bit more. And you can cube them if you want, however you'd like it on the salad. I just don't personally love big chunks in my salad, but we can use it as a pretty topping. The salad has lots of beautiful colors in it. And another thing about the recipe is you can use any type of apple you want. These are pink ladies, because I prefer something a little more sour, but any apple will work. And so now that we have our dressing put together, we have the apples, we have our dates, we are going to get it ready. And we have our pecans over here, and you can either toast the pecans like I did today, or you could use them just straight from the bag like this. Both ways work. So we're gonna throw our dates in, and then go get the pecans.
And also fresh greens, you know, you can use any greens like Megan was saying, and fresh greens are so healthy for you. They're so good for your digestive tract. There's folic acid in them. These are very important things for people with diabetes. So this is like, this salad is just, there's so many positive things about this salad.
And the last ingredient that we haven't talked about yet is goat cheese. And I'm sure you could substitute any other cheese that you would like, but this one definitely goes really well. And I just bought a small 1/4 log, and I'm not even using all the cheese. I'm using half of the log for this recipe. And then I'm just going to crumble it up. A little messy, but really, really tasty.
Yeah. This is a wonderful, wonderful salad, and just so seasonal too, with all the wonderful flavors in it.
So what I'm going to do first is toss it with my hands, just to move some of the ingredients around so everyone gets good bites. And then we're gonna top the apple, and we can dress it first actually, so that it gets all the good tasting. Or you can leave the dressing on the side if you think you're gonna wait for later, or not everyone likes as much dressing, so we can just go from there. Maybe we will leave it on the side so that it stays fresh. But here, this is what our dressing does look like. You can see all the pretty colors. There's reds and some nice yellows. And now we'll top this with our pretty warm apples. And the recipe does say to serve the salad while the apples are warm, but definitely still good the next day.
Yeah, it's a wonderful, definitely a wonderful recipe. So beautiful. And then we have, where's the meat?
The meat is right here. We can show them once again.
So now you can see our whole meal, and it's healthy. It's lower carb, and you don't feel like you're suffering. It doesn't look like we're suffering here. We're having a wonderful holiday. You should not feel guilty eating any of this. This is healthy. This is good for you.
And tasty.
And tasty. And I don't feel like it's definitely not a meager offering. It's a wonderful offering. So yeah, please, with this webinar presentation, anyone who registered for this webinar will get the recipes sent to them. If you have any questions, you can send an email to our diabetes care program at stanfordhealthcare.org website, and we will be more than willing to answer any questions you might have about this. As mentioned, you can use this wonderful preparation for the meat on different things. Pork, you could do the shoulder roast, even a steak. So we Megan, I have to say thank you so much for giving us such an upgrade on our holiday meal.
Well, thank you for having me, and happy holidays, everyone.
Happy holidays. Bye-bye.
Bye.